Hey everyone, and welcome. Welcome on this most fabulous day. I have on my pearls and my Kamala shirt. I am so excited about today. I'm excited for so many reasons. I'm excited because I feel like I was talking to someone this evening and they said, I feel like I was holding my breath, but I didn't know I was doing that. And so you exhale and that feeling of release is just, I think I woke up that way just thinking, wow, a change is about to come. So today is a remarkable day. We have made history once again. You know, we made history with a Black man. We made history with Kamala, who is, she's diverse. She's Black, she's South Asian, and she's fierce. And with Joe Biden has been a part of the two most diverse and history-making administrations that we've had. So amazing day. And here, this is the best way to cap it off. I am sitting here with Dr. Michele Cooley-Strickland, and Dr. Cooley-Strickland is a research psychologist at UCLA, and she's here to talk to us about mental health, wellness, and being a working woman. So I'm sure we're going to have a lot of comments, a lot of questions, but I would love you to take a few minutes, Dr. Cooley-Strickland, and explain what research psychologist does, because I can't explain it.
Sure. Well, I think first of all, thank you for having me, Kimberly, and on such an auspicious day, who many are celebrating, a few not so much, but the whole point is unity, right?
Right.
That's the greatness of our country, that maybe your horse didn't win this day, but you're still a winner because we are united as one.
Right.
And celebrating the first woman vice president, the first Mr. I'm still not accustomed to what her husband's title, but
second something.
Second something. But there's much to celebrate, and also to celebrate the viewers for joining us this hour in terms of recognizing the title and recognizing that we are all under stress of some sort.
That's
And it undergirds some of the non-health and the non-wellness that many of us suffer and don't talk enough about, because we feel like we should be able to muscle through and pull through, and everybody's stressed. This is a time of COVID. It's a time of upheaval in our country where we're on the road to healing. And working women are the ones who are most affected during this pandemic, because the 2008 recession was the man session, and this 2020 setback has been, and into 2021, certainly, thank God for the vaccines, but we are still in it. And working women are the ones who are getting the brunt of this. So you asked me to introduce what a research psychologist is. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist on faculty there at UCLA and also at Johns Hopkins, where I came from. I'm an adjunct there. But I also have a private practice, Dr. Michele, big surprise, really creative title, and a podcast called the She Built It podcast with Melanie and Dr. Michele. Awesome. And so I know a little bit about stress, got a couple kids, committed to fitness and health and volunteering. So I get it. And with the clients that I treat and the research that I do, which is the study of people's health and wellness in specific domains. So I've done a variety of research on a variety of topics over these years, and it helps me be a better clinician and writer and speaker and author, and a guest on your podcast show. So let's have some of the questions. How about that?
Well, let's start. Let's jump in. So when I let the women in my community, Spiceteria, know that I understood that stress was coming at them from every direction, and that I had asked you to be a guest, someone raised their hand immediately and said, this is very personal, but I really could use help in dealing with this. And so what she's dealing with is she's a nurse. So she's on the front line and she's dealing with COVID. She is also responsible for her 89-year-old mother, and her mentally ill brother lives with his mother. So she's basically responsible for both of them. Her husband has some hip problems, like he needs a hip replacement. So he's basically immobile. So she goes to work every day as a nurse, dealing with people who are very sick with COVID, and then has to go take care of her mother and her brother, and then go home to her husband. And then on top of that, Dr. Michele, there's more. On top of that, her adult daughter is dealing with addiction. And so she's really, I guess she's been in and out of addiction, and she's really in the throes of addiction, which we know that with COVID, a lot of people who had that problem, drove them back to that, to even deeper. And so she said, I put my hands up, and if there's anything that Dr. Michele can share to help me, how do I manage all of this? Are there things I can do? Am I doing it wrong? Should I be doing all this? What should I do? So that's the first one. It's a biggie, but that's the first situation.
Well, first, let me thank her.
Where do you start with that?
Right. Well, first, let me thank her for her service on the front lines. Our country owes a debt of gratitude to those who continue to help in the healing professions, as well as our educators. But thank you, first of all. And through all that, you say, she continues to get up and go to work every day. And so that tells you, that gives you an idea of her fortitude, of her strength, of her inner capacity for almost heroism. I mean, however, she, like none of us, is Superwoman. And so although we as humans have this inordinate capacity to rise to the occasion and meet the demands, we can't do it forever. So she's juggling multiple roles. Superwomen are perfectionists. Mm-hmm. We have multiple roles that we are trying to manage, and trying is the key word, simultaneously. Right. So she's the RN, she's the wife, she's the daughter caregiver, she's the sister caregiver, she's the wife to someone who is physically unwell, she's the mother to someone who is addicted, in and out, thereby emotional issues. So, and then she's a woman who has her own personal needs. So you cannot be all things to all people, and you need to forgive yourself for that reality. It is reality. The fact that she has reached out on Spiceteria and expressed this is a wonderful sign that she recognizes, I can't go on like this. Something must change. So if you want, as we all credit to Albert Einstein, who actually didn't really say this, but if you want something different, you have to do something different. You can't. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different outcomes. Right. So I recommend that my clients, Superwomen, actually invert that triangle. So instead of continuing to soldier on and try to be everything to everyone and give yourself the least, you're at the bottom of that period, that pyramid, that triangle. Right. Invert it. Start with yourself. Okay. Start with yourself. The adage, you put the oxygen mask on to yourself first, there's a reason, because you need to be able to breathe. You need to be able to have your strength and refill yourself to be able to serve the others in proportion to their need. You keep refilling yourself when you put yourself first. So what does that look like? That means taking care of your health and well-being. We all know she's an RN. She knows what do you do?
But
You
I
have
think
to,
medical professionals sometimes are hard. They're harder patients.
don't I know it? Yes, they are. But once you it is a mental shift. It's not the what that she needs to do to take care of herself. It is the emotional, it is the recognition that I am worth. I
Mm,
am I need to value myself more, not in the actions that I give and the exhaustion that I have at the end of the night. It is more the fulfillment of my personal enjoyment of life. So even with all of those things, she has to have a joy that she's sharing with her patients. She has to have a sense um, of peace that she can help her mother and her mentally ill brother and her daughter as a role model. So that starts with self-care. Self-care. Even if it's taking a 5-minute walk, you're doing it for yourself. There's nobody else who's going to benefit from you from that, but that investing in yourself, recognizing I am worth scheduling 5 minutes, and obviously that's a start, to take care of myself and recenter myself. You must recenter to be able to sustain
right.
and keep giving.
Okay.
That's the short answer.
Well, thank
Um,
you.
yeah.
That was helpful, and I hope you're here. Here's the next scenario.
So let me also
So,
say, sorry. Let me
okay.
also say that
Yeah.
she is asking for help. And one of the things that I do is have a group therapy session for there at UCLA. I do it with a group of frontline caregivers, really. Basically, let's boil it down to that.
Okay.
And they wouldn't on their own go to therapy.
Right.
It's not a real therapy group. It is a support group for individuals facing similar challenges. And so maybe she can get a group of her RNs, because if you think about it, RNs are caregivers. So
Right.
they're natural magnets for people to come to for help. You, Kimberly, are a natural CEO and people manager, so people rely on you so much. So you would get a group of women and who are similarly minded and hire a therapist to help you once a week.
That's an outstanding idea. You know, that was one of the reasons why Spiceteria came to be,
Mhm.
because it started as a blog when my children were young, and I was, climbing the corporate ladder, traveling all the time, and I just needed an outlet. And so I started to write about where my life was and what I was doing. Um, and then I did it periodically. But then in 2018, when I separated from my job, I was just feeling like I was in this space. The whole time I was in my job, I was feeling like I was in this space. Like I didn't have the ability. Someone asked me, don't you do anything creative anymore? Because I painted. I'm a very creative person. And I said, no, I don't know. I had lost all of that, all interest in that. All that. I just felt tired all the time.
Mhm.
Right. And once I left and I started talking to women and they started sharing their stories, it's like, oh, okay, well, let's come together and we can share our stories, and we can make each other better because
Yeah.
we'll share those stories. And it's so important. Like I'm an only child, and you kind of figure out how to go through life and make decisions on your own. And I don't usually ask people for anything, right? Because it's like I was raised to do it myself. Like my mom was this way. I was raised to be that way. And no one really tells you. They tell you you can have it all.
Mhm.
And they tell you to go for it all.
Mhm.
But they don't really tell you what the sacrifice will be if you do that and you don't have an outlet,
Right.
or you don't have someone to talk to, and you don't, and I also was raised in a house where you just don't, like, what's the point of complaining? Like my mom would say, if you don't feel well and someone asks you, how are you doing? You tell them I'm doing fine. And when you walk out the door, I don't care if you have 102 fever and you're sick as a dog, you better look pulled together. And so that's it, right? Like all the time. Like I'm having surgery in 2 weeks on my left arm, but people see me and they're like, "But you look great." I'm like, "Right, because there's nothing wrong with my face, right? Like it's just something going on over here. I can't use my left arm." And I just think it's fascinating that as women, especially as working women, that's it. Like we're programmed. And when you said Superwoman, I mean, that is definitely a phenomenon that we need to understand how to break that cycle, because there's only one Superwoman and she's actually Wonder Woman.
Right.
And she's, she's not real.
Nor does she juggle. She's
Right.
good at one thing, saving the world, but her relationship is poop and she has no kids, not even a dog. So
That's right. That's exactly right. And I just don't think women are we're educated. We are talented. We are caregivers. We're all those things that make us super women. But I think for the more you do, the more you expect of yourself, and you lose sight of who you are. And I think that's the thing. Oh, someone just commented and they said, "Yeah, no pets and no plants." She has no plants either.
that's right. That's right. That's right. I like how you, Kimberly, went back to thinking about when you made your exit, how you realized you were missing part of you. It was it when we think about how our ascension, how we muscled through, I go back to the joy. So I ask clients, when were you most happy? Think back on your life. When were you most happy? What were you doing? Were you juggling a bunch of different things at the same time? I was a cheerleader. I worked at McDonald's. I was on student council. I was on the track team and had to make some grades. Well, I loved that. And that's why you can see when you act, but that made me happy. I have a dear, dear friend who had one lane, and that was academics, straight lane. And she got through grad school with one all-nighter. Do you know how many all-nighters I've had and continue to have? But that's because, I juggle, but I like the juggle, but I've learned what's a manageable juggle. I want our viewers to really think about what type of life makes you happy. And we as women work in silos. So I've got the motherhood, I've got I've got the job, I've got the volunteerism. But think about what undergirds that. What do you really enjoy, so that you can remain centered through all of these winds that we are pushed through. And remember that we are made of our physical self, our mental self, our emotional, our sexual self, and our spiritual self. And to neglect one of those domains makes us imbalanced. So for some people, some of those pieces.
And a lot of women talk about that, how they're so tired, right? They have run themselves so down. And I was definitely guilty of this, that they don't even feel like a sexual being. Like there's no sex appeal left. They're just tired. They feel run down. And, and their husband or their significant other or whoever, they don't know what's going on in their head, right? Because it is in their head. And then they have to figure out how to work with the woman, and the woman's feeling like, well, I'm just tired. I'm doing all these other things. I'm just tired, and so she's made the decision that is what she has to put on hold. But in the whole, it's, it's just another part of the juggle.
It's it's one we don't discuss enough. It's one that goes quickly. And when I say invert the triangle, put yourself first, that that flows into all of those domains that I talked about that we are. If you're taking care of your physical health, then you're able to be more spiritual because you're saying, Lord Jesus, please help me with this 10th repetition, or, oh, look in the
Right.
mirror,
Right.
I don't have as much to pinch.
Right.
So
And then you
maybe I
feel
will
better.
put that lingerie on tonight because look what I've done for myself. I'm feeling better about myself. Men don't understand as much. Yeah. For us, it starts here, our
That's right.
sexual self. For men, it starts in another region.
Mhm.
But we
Right.
we do communicate that way, and we need to be touched. We need to touch. We need to feel
Mhm.
that the way that our bodies were designed to be, so shall we say, explosive, if possible, that
Mhm.
has a way of feeding into those other domains. I'm going to enjoy my job better because
Mhm.
I can remember feeling so wonderfully, whether you do that for
Mhm.
yourself or whether you have a
Mhm.
partner, but it is paying attention to all aspects of yourself and not not subjugating them, not depressing them in lieu of somebody else's needs, which outweigh. Now, this is not for always, but we just need a little bit to help us go a long way.
Right.
And it's the part of recognizing that not attending to all parts of ourselves hurts us when we need as much energy, we need as much joy and motivation to push us through those huge demands that we can't control. There are things we can control, but there's so many that we can't. Let's do more with what we can.
So how do you take that into the workplace? You work in corporate America, and you have this demanding job, you have a demanding boss, and he has a wife to do the things that you have to do. And so, when it's time for your child's game or play or something like that, and you want to, like, how do you handle, I guess, how do you handle yourself? Because it really is emotional, right? So how do you handle yourself when you're in that situation? And you want to say, look, I have the same thing going for me as you do. Only I don't have a wife, and I need to get out of this building, and I have to do this, this, and this. And because I think that women feel guilty when they have to leave work, and then the flip side is that they feel guilty if they miss what their child did or their husband did. So we spend time in this kind of vortex of guilt. How do we handle that?
Well, in that situation, we're darned if we do and we're darned if we don't.
Hmm.
We're darned if we don't go to our kids' thing, and we're darned if we leave the office early. And that has to do with priorities. It has to do with recognizing what's most important at this moment in time and into the future. So if I miss Johnny's practice, but I make the playoff game, you know,
Hmm.
it's okay. If
Hmm.
I explain to Susie, look, babe, I know you want to go with your friends. Well, let's just imagine that we're post
Yeah.
COVID. I know you want to go with your friends to the mall. I'm not okay with sending you in an Uber. I won't be able to take you, but on Saturday instead, we can do this. We'll have your friends over. That's trite. I think the bigger issue is recognizing that we cannot do everything. We cannot be all things to all people. And you negotiate.
Mm.
You are in the C-suite. You are you've gotten yourself where you've gotten yourself through such achievements, not because you're unable to make decisions. Do you have to call it your kid's play? Can you say you have a critical appointment
Hmm.
and that you will be back in the office early tomorrow morning, or make sure you calendar things and you work around. So, nobody, I think women tell too much of their business. You don't have to give the reason.
Great advice.
I'm not available. I'm not available and it's not negotiable. I'd be glad to do this instead, or I did this else instead. And that's what I'm saying about putting yourself first, because it also this translates because when you are used to putting yourself first and carrying self-care into yourself, then you talk to yourself better. You talk
Mhm.
to yourself, the self-talk that you have is more uplifting, it's more supportive, it's more encouraging, it's more affirming, and you tolerate less of people speaking poorly or in ways you find unacceptable. You tolerate less doo-doo from others when you speak more kindly to yourself. And you do that when you are taking care of yourself.
There's freedom in that too. I have, over the past 2 years, I've really gotten to a place where I do take care of myself, and I focus on me, like not all the time, but every day there's time for me. That's how I start my day. And
Good. Great.
I get very upset if someone interrupts that, but it has made such a difference in my life. I have a much better relationship with everybody.
Well,
And
explain to the listeners and the viewers how you made that transformation, because that's the crux of it, Kimberly. Like I said, everybody has an internet. You know, what do you do to lose weight? How to sleep better? But to explain to the viewers how you made that transformation, because it's that click. Because nobody comes to you and says, Kimberly, I think we're going to give you an extra hour every morning for you to take care of yourself. No, no. What
Nope.
did you do?
So here's what I do. So in the morning, I go into my bathroom, and I just, that is my time. And so, I do my prayers. I spend time in the shower just talking to myself, right? What are the things that are on my mind? I'm just going to talk them out. And I'm going to, and I take my time. I used to, like, the morning routine was brush your teeth, wash your face, jump in the quick shower, jump out, get your, and I don't do that anymore. I take as much time as I want. And so my morning ritual, and everybody doesn't have this much time, but I'm in the bathroom for 45 minutes. And it's my time in the bathroom. And since I had an accident, so I haven't been able to exercise, but I was going to the gym 3 times a week, 6 o'clock. And that's really what started me, because my older son is 18 and he works out and he's in great shape and he's an athlete. And he was like, Mom, you used to be very active. You should get back to it. And so, and he kept saying it. And so I did. And I'm an early riser. I had no problem getting up and getting to the gym. And I felt better. I looked better. And then when I couldn't do it because of the accident, I said, I have to do something. So I turned that time into just that time for me. And it definitely, it makes such a difference, because if my day gets crazy and I have a lot of client meetings or, something that's going to take me into the evening, I know I have had that time in the morning. So I'm okay. I'm okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that time, that 45 minutes, whether it's at the gym or it's in the shower, in the bathroom, is non-negotiable. That is your carve out time. And that's exactly, Kimberly, what I'm talking about. Each of our viewers needs non-negotiable self-care time, whatever that is for you. You just so eloquently explained what that is for you. I have my must do, or else forget about it, because but it is, but that's a transformation. I wasn't always that way, and that's what I speak from, is especially in my practice, I try to have realistic, practical guidance and advice based in theory, right? As a psychologist, based in theory, but don't say you have to go and swim with 7 sharks, eat 4 raw eggs, and then stand on your head, and that's going to be the cure.
Right.
No, we're not going to do it. But we might start with waking up 15 minutes earlier, read a scripture, get up and do some deep breathing and calisthenics, touch your toes, whatever, and start your day in a way that's beautiful. Maybe you pick up an app and do a little exercise program for 15 minutes.
Right.
You know, and then you go. And then you go. And as you were saying, you're able to reflect even when things are getting tough. You know, I do love myself. I did take care of myself. I can get through this. Another thing that I recommend is that people cleanse, just kind of purge in between. We're still rush, whether you're in Zoom, back to back to back to back meetings, or at a hospital, or wherever you are. Pause in between things to reset, because we always feel like I don't have 30 seconds.
Right.
You do. You do. So whether that is getting up from your chair, walking to the front door, taking a deep breath, and walk back and sit back at your meeting, you know, for the next one. But it's to reset. And that's part of the issue with the first question. We need to reset so that we are centered, and then we can handle whatever it is, because we keep recentering ourselves. What happens is, with chronic stress, there's no reset, there's no purge, there's no cleanse, so that you can start at zero, recalibrate it. You're going from one thing to another, to another, to another, to another. And so your resources are depleted because you've not reset. And so that's another thing that I recommend. It can be momentary. I know before COVID, when I used to go out, I'd take a disco nap, you know, before going out, you know, with meeting your girlfriends and stuff. I don't care if it's 20 minutes, something, just to refresh and just recenter, and then, you know, take off that working woman costume and put on, you know, I'm going to be fun. Because that's another thing, besides the sexual aspect of women's health. Another thing that we miss is being fun. You know, our kids don't see us as ever being fun. Our partners might not remember remember when you're fun. You can't even remember when you're fun. So I love how you said that you're creative. I paint. Thanks to COVID, I was able to start painting again because I didn't have to have that LA commute. So I took that time to start painting again. But remember what we consider fun and enjoyable, just for the heck of it, not because it's going to make us money, not because somebody needs it to be done, but just purely because it's part of us and who we are, and it helps in that recentering. I did it for me, and it's counterintuitive that people don't really think, well, if I pour more into myself, then I have less for other people. No, it's quality. You have much more quality of yourself to give in those other areas.
Yeah, it is counterintuitive, though, you know. But the other thing that I've started doing, and this is recent, because by, I guess, November, December, I was just back to back. And I was like, wait a minute. I was like that when I worked for a company. I sure as hell don't need to be like that. And I own the company. Like, that makes no sense. So I had my assistant, I said, we're going to adjust this. So if I have a 30-minute meeting, it's really a 25-minute meeting.
Good.
And if I have an hour meeting, it's really a 50-minute meeting.
Yeah.
Because I need that time in between to just get up, stretch, walk around, do something. But that's all. It's all retraining. It really is, because I spent most of my professional career, not when I was younger, but once I had the kids, and where I was back to back. Really, I had a global job. So I was traveling internationally like every 6 weeks. And I just was like, this is who I am. This is who I am in this relationship. This is who I am. But I felt so guilty being away from the kids. And then I thought, well, but I'm giving them this great life. You know, my husband's an attorney. Like, you know, we could work that out, right? And when it was, I guess it was shortly after I started my business here, and both the boys came to me at different times. And they were like, Mom, it's so good to have you back. And we're just so proud of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that just like struck me because, or I would meet one of their teachers and they'd say, oh, we hear that you do this and you travel this. And so here I was feeling guilty and they were seeing me like hustling and proud of that. And so I, that's another thing. Like, I'm not the professional here, but I do think that when I tell our listeners, you know, ask the kids, like the women who talk about being away from the kids and feeling guilty, ask the kids how they feel, and you know what, and be honest, you know,
Right.
have conversations. Because before we started, you and I were talking and I was sharing that I grew up, the family didn't tell anything. You know, I didn't know what illnesses we had in the family. I didn't know, right? Because you're not supposed to talk about it. You're supposed to better look good. And you don't need to go to the doctor because you're going to be fine. And you know, the time is different now. And I just really encourage all the women to be honest and put it out there. Like, this is what I'm feeling. This is how, you know, it's not a good day today. And I know that's hard. That's really hard. That's taken years of therapy.
And the upside is that you're able to share that personal journey, that difference between being the stoic, don't air the laundry outside of the house, versus I'm going to share, these have been my solutions. Because when people see you, Kimberly, they see the full package. They don't know what went into making that package as whole as it is. There was a lot of work that went behind that. And people need to know it doesn't just happen. There's no overnight success story. There's work behind that.
Yeah.
The guilt, you raised the guilt issue. And that's something that I advise clients against is choose with your eyes wide open. So if you're going to decide that this is what I'm going to do, that's a conscious decision. So I'm going to let the guilt go because I'm choosing. I have made the decision between I can either work and provide for my family, or I can do a part-time underemployed job and have more time. But that's not going to fit the dynamics of my family. That's not what I'm choosing. And so whichever one you choose, let the guilt go because you have your reasons. So when we have guilt, it extracts, it sucks the fun and the joy out of what it is that we're doing. So if I'm traveling, then I have mommy guilt because I'm not there with my kids. Well, you know what? My kids are happier to see me when I get home. So maybe I shouldn't have that guilt because I'm doing them a service that they have to realize how much mommy does do.
Right.
And you know, I used to come home and bring gifts back when I go on travel. And then I was like, I got to the point when I sit there and watch, they'd run through the door. What'd you bring us? Wait a second. Where's the hi, mom? I missed you. So my kids are old now, so I learned that lesson early. I was like, I didn't stop bringing stuff home because it was to assuage my guilt.
That's right.
But my kids were just fine when I got home. They had 2 arms and 2 legs and 2 eyes when I got back. So, but you know, we each make decisions, but don't punish yourself once you've made that decision. It takes the joy out.
Is there something you can say to yourself that kind of stops you in your tracks, or when you're feeling that guilt? Like, is there something that you can do to kind of like snap out? Because I think that once you have that guilt muscle, it's very difficult to rework it. You know, it's like, you know, that little pout you have after you have a baby. That's the hardest thing to work off. And then you just go and you're like, okay, I'm just going to have a mommy redo and get a tummy tuck, right? But there's no tummy tuck for guilt. So what can you do to kind of get yourself straight?
I'll be honest with you. I have literally told myself, stop it. I mean, even something as simple as saying stop. I mean, really audibly in your head, stop. I'm doing this. And then go down the checklist as to why you've chosen the decision that you've chosen. I've chosen this because my husband doesn't work, or I'm a single mom, or I want to get a new $3,000 e-bike. Whatever it is, you're making a choice. And so don't punish yourself for making a choice that you, as I said, with eyes wide open and
Mhm.
are a conscious decision that it's the best choice, right? One of the things that I recommend is when you have to make priorities or make decisions, or especially last minute quick decisions, prioritizing, ask yourself should, must, want. So it's should, must, want. I'm got to make this decision. Is it something I should do? Okay, yes. Must I do it?
Mhm.
Yes, I must do it. There's no alternative. I must do it. Okay, let it go. Got to do it. I can't do the other stuff. I must do this. Or is it something I should do versus something I want to do? Yeah, I just want to go to the movies and eat some popcorn and watch Brad Pitt. That's what I want to do. Do I have work to do?
Yes.
Yeah, I do. But I would feel really, really, really great and happy with myself if I went to this movie. Of course, after COVID, I love movies. I miss the heck out of theaters.
Me too.
But if I do this, Dr. Michele, if I do this, that means I'm going to pull an all-nighter.
Mhm.
Okay. All
Mhm.
right. So when I go to this movie and eat this 1,000 calories of popcorn, I'm going to enjoy myself. I'm not going to feel guilty. I'm going to stay to the credits, and then I'm going to leave here and I'm going to sit at my computer and I'm going to work all night and get this paper written. And I'm going to have those great memories, but I'm not going to bleed the guilt into the movie theater.
Right.
I did it because I wanted to. Should, must, want.
Okay. Should, must, want. Everybody write that down and don't forget. Should, must, want.
It'll go in my book. I'm writing a book on
Oh, okay.
practical psychology for women. Come on.
That's that's a whole nother. Oh my goodness. I mean, we talked about practical, and I hate to say this, but I'm just going to put it out there. Common sense, right? There's nothing common about sense, and there's so many. We make these decisions, and then when you look at the decision you make, or someone else looks at it, you're like, wait, why did I do that? Right? And we haven't even touched on relationships, and there's just there's a lot to being a woman. There's a lot to adulting, and I would say that a lot of it comes from, and I'm not professional, but this is just, from the desk of Kimberly. It feels like a lot of it comes from, teenage years and the tools that you got, or what you saw in with your parents or other people around you who had relationships. And instead of really getting to know yourself, you feel like you have to have a man, and the only tools you have are what you saw. And then even when you become a grown ass woman, okay, this isn't working, right? This is giving me more stress. Now I've got this crazy job and I've got this relationship that's giving me stress, but I can just say I have a man, right? Or, it's complicated. And I think that women need to give themselves more credit, that they know common sense, they shouldn't be there, right? I posted this post that said loyalty keeps you in relationships common sense would get you out of, right? And I think that's a big deal when it comes to friendship as well as relationships,
Right.
with some women.
Right. Well, I know we don't have too much longer, but I'm glad you did raise the relationship issue. I again go back to inverting that triangle and taking good care of yourself, because you become less tolerant of others not treating you well.
That's right.
I encourage my clients, be less comfortable with the uncomfortable. And in relationships, we often, in unhealthy relationships, because there's certainly, thank God, marvelous, long-standing relationships.
Yes.
We often make ourselves smaller to make the other person feel bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And when you recognize that that's what you're doing, walking on eggshells, not being your full self because you need to fill that other person who is a bottomless sieve. There's no bottom. So
No,
as much as you pour in, it's
not
never enough.
Mm-hmm.
Those are signals that something needs to change. And my sister, she's funny. She says, you're the only psychologist who thinks that people don't change. Now, this was during a situation. And I said, listen, people can change. No, I know they change. I do this for a living. I said, but they have to want to change.
Right.
And so I can want as much in every fiber of my being for somebody else to be different, but that's not going to make them different. So that what option do we have? The option we have is to change ourselves. Remember, we go back to that Einstein saying, the definition of which he didn't say, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different outcomes.
Right.
Stop doing the same thing. Start doing something different. You fix yourself, and that the other person, the other people will have no choice but to change because you are no longer the same. And you will find whether that is enough to sustain a different relationship. Because again, because one person in that relationship changes, it's not the same relationship.
Right.
If that's sufficient to motivate them to do the changes that they need to make, then great. In either case, you are better because you are healthier. You got that therapist. You got that 45 minutes of self-care in the morning. You took that walk every day and lost that tire, or whatever you don't like about yourself, because we're so hypercritical. And again, I also say every woman needs to stand in the mirror naked every day and see yourself and put some love into yourself. If you don't like something, then change something.
Right.
But we have very malleable, the purpose is to stop talking unkindly to yourself. And I am a naturally chunky person. You look back at my pictures, but and my sister and my mother, absolutely not. And so I was the one who's just like, can I have an extra slice of cake? Another one? And I had to learn. Nobody, they'll say a little something about you, but they're not going to make the changes for you. So I have to, there are things that I have to do because of the way that I want to take care of myself. And you mentioned how your parents passed early. Mine passed relatively early. I mean, I was an adult, but it was still earlier than certainly life expectancy.
Right.
And then I had grandparents. My grandfather was 105 or 7 something when he died. We don't know exactly. He didn't know exactly, but he was had all his faculties and was a member of the bar into his 90s. So, and practiced law, so you just don't know. So we expected, of course, our parents would live until, but they didn't. And that's part of the messaging too. We do not live forever. And we live our lives are not very long, and our healthy years are even shorter. So expand those healthy years for yourselves, listeners. Expand those healthy years by taking good care of your emotional and your mental health, because that elongates your physical health, and just your joy and enthusiasm for life.
Well, thank you. That's a perfect place to end. And I want to thank everyone who joined us. Lori says to be still. That's right. That's the pause. Be still.
Right.
And Jackie wrote should, must, want for everyone. So you guys don't forget it. Jackie made a note for you. So
Thank you.
I just want to thank you. This was wonderful. I enjoyed talking to you. And full disclosure, I get to talk to Dr. Michele again tomorrow. And I'm so excited. So tomorrow on my LinkedIn Live, we're going to talk to Black women, right? Spiceteria is very diverse, but we are going to talk to Black women tomorrow about mental health and the workplace. And I think we're going to have an amazing time talking. And I'm also going to try something new tomorrow. So I don't know how many people are on Clubhouse, but this is a new platform. And after the show, we're going to do like they used to do with Oprah and like Andy Cohen does. And, you know, we have the show, but then we're going to take the show. At the end of the show, we're going to Clubhouse and we're going to have like a behind the scenes, like we only get to talk to you for so much time, but then we'll go to Clubhouse and we'll, you know, talk for another 10 minutes. So if anybody doesn't get a chance to talk to you there, they can talk to you on Clubhouse.
We'll get to meet in the Clubhouse. I like it.
Yeah,
I
so
like it.
It should be great. And so I just want to thank everyone for coming tonight. And for my Spiceteria listeners or joiners, I'm going to post, we're doing a fundraiser for the YWCA Chicago World of Money. And World of Money is a program for young people ages 12 to 18, and they teach them the value of money, how to invest, anything you need to know about money. And so I just wanted to let everyone know you're going to see the posting. I hate to ask you for anything, but it's for the kids and it's very important. And so I want everyone to be safe, continue the joy of the day, and I will be in touch with you guys very soon. Take care. And thank you, Dr. Michele. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm so excited.
Great. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much. Bye, listeners.
Thank you. Have a great night.